yeah, I mean, I guess we can kind of go ahead and start getting into the spoiler side of things. So, yeah, fair warning. From this point forward, we will be discussing spoilers, as little of them as there realistically are in a movie like this that pretty much has no plot. We will be discussing spoilers for Godzilla vs. Kong. So if you haven't seen it yet, you don't want spoilers, now is the time to stop. Fire up HBO Max if you've got it. Go to the theater if you can. If you're interested in seeing the movie, now's the time to go and watch the movie. Just know what to expect. If you just want to expect some mindless fun that's kind of like watching two giant monsters wrestle, and that's what you want, yeah, you're going to have a good time. So, yes, spoiler time. So we already mentioned the podcaster character, but before that, I guess we should talk about. I mean, do you want to just kind of like go through the beats of the movie sort of in order and kind of discuss it that way?
Yeah, sure. I mean, from the beginning, I think it was kind of upsetting that you really didn't get to see what really happened to Skull Island. I mean, they kind of told you about the storm, and you saw the storm, I think, in about two scenes. They kind of give you an idea of the storm.
Yeah, they say what happened there, but you don't really see what happens there. So I mean, you can't. They show this part in the trailer too. Kong is walking around in his enclosure. He's doing his thing. The little girl's there and stuff. And then there's the moment where he takes the tree, he rips the roots off, turns it into a spear, and then he sees what happens is the little girl comes out. She's holding her Kong thing, signs to him. He kind of leans down, sort of gives her a little bit of curious grin, and then gets up, looks at the sky, and launches this tree that he's turned into a spear. And we've all seen the trailer. You know what happens. It hits the projector screen that's up there and breaks it and shows, Kong is not actually out in the open and free. He's in one of the Monarch enclosures like what they showed in King of the Monsters. And for those who haven't seen Kong Skull Island, minor spoiler. It's not a spoiler. It's just a detail in the movie. One of the bits they talk about Skull Island is that it was only recently found with satellite imaging, and it's difficult to access because it's got a permanent hurricane force storm surrounding the island. They mention in Godzilla vs. Kong, and you see it, it's raining, it's just drenched, pouring rain, dark, windy, all over this enclosure, all around the little observation center built outside of it, and then the scientist lady who adopted the girl who's the key to everything, mentions in one of the two scenes there that Kong's habitat, he can't stay here forever, this and that. Kong's habitat's already been had havoc wreaked on it by the fact that by the storm closing in on Skull Island. So basically, the storm stopped being around Skull Island and fully engulfed it. And yeah, so that's part of the impetus for why they moved Kong.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of disappointing that you really didn't get to see that. I mean, they explained it. They show you the storm, so you're like, all right, I see the storm, but then. I remember I think I sent you a message on Discord once where I kind of thought before the film came out that Apex was going to kind of be behind them fighting, right?
Yeah.
And I was more into... They sort of were, but I didn't think that was going to be the... I thought it was going to be more of a directed hand.
Yeah, and it's only a kind of sort of. It's really more circumstantial, the fact that Apex leads to Godzilla and Kong having their first fight together.
Right, and that's I didn't. That's what I'm saying. Admittedly, I thought that they would have something to do with it, but I thought it was going to be more of a directed hand. I thought it was going to be more of we kind of want to lure them out or wear them down type of thing.
Yeah, and I think that, I personally think it kind of would have worked a bit better if they had gone that route with the story and had made it so that Apex was sort of causing things to happen. So again, sort of the next thing we learn is the whole Godzilla's rampaging thing. We come to one of the facilities of this company called Apex Cybernetics. And
Right.
this was actually honestly something that really bugged me about this movie. The fact that, like it's kind of hinted at, since they said Godzilla vs. Kong not Godzilla vs. Kong, Kong Skull Island takes place in the mid-70s, and it's supposed to be Kong's had about 60 years to grow. It's like, okay, well, if he's had 60 years to grow from the mid-70s, then that means it's probably like the 2030s. But it can't be, because Millie Bobby Brown's character is like a sophomore or a junior in high school.
It was only 5 years after.
Okay, yeah. So it's 2024. Okay, right. So let's put it this way. We're expected to believe that from 2019 to 2024, the level of tech that we see is what we see Monarch has. You have the Argo, which, like, basically the most advanced piece of technology is the Argo, which is it's a big advanced research station, like aerial research station, but realistically speaking, it's a supersized flying wing. It's a supersized, more advanced, believable version of something we already have.
Right.
And yet we're expected to believe that in 5 years we went from that to anti-gravity vehicles and Mecha Godzilla. There's your spoiler for the third antagonist, which is, like I said, when you see the destruction scene, Godzilla shows up at the this Apex headquarters in Florida, I think it was. It was along the Gulf of Mexico somewhere. Doesn't really matter particularly where, but he wrecks shit. Vlogger guy is talking about how, I've been working as a mole inside of Apex for the past 5 years. I'm about to blow the lid on the whole thing. And Millie Bobby Brown is totally invested in listening to this. Meanwhile, we don't care because these characters aren't interesting at all. They suck. Millie Bobby Brown still acts well, but her character is not interesting. And this guy is definitely not interesting. And he's not funny, in my opinion, either. But, yeah, so that starts the whole adventure subplot with them. But we see, as the destruction's going on, this dude, as Godzilla's coming ashore, starting to wreck shit. It's very much throwback to the old Japanese movies, coming ashore, destroying the city. It feels like classic Godzilla at that point. This dude sneaks into the base to try and, as the evacuation's going on, he sneaks into part of the base he's not supposed to access because he's like a level 2 engineer. And he's stolen some data, and he wants to sneak in and see if he can sneak around and see what's actually going on. Nearly gets killed by a couple guards, and then, by pure luck, Godzilla's atomic breath rips through that part of the building right in front of him. Somehow, the guards that are standing, they were 2 feet away from him? They were just a little more than an arm's length away from him. And they get incinerated, but this dude's fine. Nah, he's fine. He's got plot armor for days.
That eye, the Mecha Godzilla.
So that's the reveal. That's the reveal. You see this orb, this silver orb with like a red circle on the inside, like all these dashed lines. And yeah, you could tell immediately. Okay, it's a Mecha Godzilla eye, and it's giving off this sound that's reminiscent of the orca from the last movie, which is causing Godzilla to go crazy. So. Insert adventure subplot. Millie Bobby Brown talks to her dad, tells her we should talk to this guy. He knows about Titans. And dad's like, this dude's a conspiracy theorist. Stop fucking around with this shit. Go to school. And then
before you move on, I do want to mention that they do play a news clip on the TV. I don't know if you really caught it. After the attack on that base, they say only 8 people died.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And I'm like, yo,
there's 8 dead, hundreds injured, and this base is leveled!
Yo, there's no fucking way. Unless he was specifically being so careful only to, destroy infrastructure and not people. He's
Yeah, that. Oh god, yeah, that detail was dumb. I forgot. Thank you for reminding me about that. That was really stupid. But
there's no way only 8 people died. I mean, dude, you only saw the 2 guards. So it's like, I mean, the way you guys are making it seem is like, he really didn't kill anyone, and like maybe the other 6, those 2 were an accident. Maybe the other 6 had a heart attack. Who knows? Like, this is crazy. Like, it was just the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way with that attack, the atomic breath, the stepping on everything, that only, I mean, 8 people, only 8.
Yeah, I don't think so. Not even close.
I think
you're probably going to have to add a couple of zeros at the end of that.
Yeah, hundreds dead, 8 people injured. That's what it should have been. The opposite. Like,
yeah, that would have made a lot more sense. So, yeah. But all that is what kicks off the adventure subplot with Millie Bobby Brown's character, and I'll just summarize the entire adventure subplot. They sneak back, Stranger Things style, Millie Bobby Brown and her chubby, weirdly New Zealand friend in New York, or not New York, from L.A.
Right.
Yeah, steals his brother's beat-up old van, and she convinces him to, go along with her and let her drive and all this stuff, and he just gives in because he's a simp. Let's be real. He's a simp.
All the way from L.A. Right, they drive all the way from L.A. to Florida as teenagers with no money.
Yeah. They drive all the way from L.A. to Florida as teenagers with no money. Go to this seedy back alley, Trouble in Little China style, shithole slum. Millie Bobby Brown starts trying to negotiate. This was one scene that I very nearly lost my shit in. It was so funny for me. This was one of the times where the humans were hilarious for me, because Millie Bobby Brown is shown to be so fucking incompetent in this scene. She's trying to negotiate with the shopkeeper, because she figures out for some reason that oh well, this dude buys bleach every day, and he washes with it because weird conspiracy theory reasons. So it's weird and stupid. But she goes to the shop where she thinks he buys the bleach, and just straight up asks the shopkeeper, "Do you know this guy who buys bleach?" And he's like what is this? Oh, you just more weirdos? What, are you kids interested in candy? If you want candy, I'll sell you candy.
Yeah, I mean, that was, it was like the whole Tide Pods challenge. That's what he was trying to...
Oh my god, yeah, they straight up referenced the Tide Pod challenge. Kind of dating yourself a little bit with this movie, yeah.
Right.
But, yeah, so I will say specifically why I almost laughed my ass off at this scene is because Millie Bobby Brown couldn't figure out that this guy obviously wanted her to pay him for this information. And her New Zealander friend, the simp, figures it out. He puts the money on the counter, and she's just like, "What are you doing?" It's the stupidest thing he could possibly do. And of course the dude just takes the money. "Oh yeah, Billy, I know where he is. You want his address? You guys better buy a bunch of fish." It's basically says, "Give me more money and I'll tell you where he is." Seriously? Seriously? Millie Bobby Brown, your character is that stupid you couldn't figure out that this dude obviously wanted money?
It's kind of crazy, because it's just this dude is trying to scam these kids. There's just so much wrong going on in this scene.
It's funny in the most hilariously wrong way for her character, because it's just instead of it making her seem like she's naive or like she's got scruples or something, it just makes her seem like a dense idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so that whole adventure goes on. They these guys travel together to the ruins of the Apex headquarters, because they find out that the blogger dude at some point found out, I think it was when he was initially infiltrating, found out that there's a secret sub-level 33 which of course they get into the ruins of this heavily guarded facility, sneak inside. The damage is not anywhere near extensive enough so that it impedes them in any way. Somehow, Godzilla did not destroy the Mechagodzilla part that was giving off the sound that was causing him to go nuts. Apex just managed to make it go away somehow. They just got it out of there. Don't know how. It's never explained. A lot of this stuff is never explained. But it's just gone. And like we mentioned, the dude never thought to take a picture. He had his phone with him. He had his phone with him.
Right.
So
that's kind of the whole thing. Like, you got this whole conspiracy. Like, why the hell would you think that they would leave that eye in the destroyed part of the base?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna bring you back to this, like a day or two later, back to find this evidence.
Think of it. He taught the day he goes in, the day the Apex base is destroyed, is when he goes in and does this. Millie Bobby Brown hears the podcast that day. The next day, she decides to drive from LA to Florida. And does this beat up van from the 80s that looks like if you're familiar with Archer, straight up looks like it's Krieger's van from Archer. Does this thing have like I don't know, warp drive? Is it able to cross the entire length of the country in a day? From literally like 10:30 in the day to 10:30 at night? Can it make the drive from LA to fucking like basically Miami in 10 hours?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, and the fact that this guy is supposed to be smart, Millie Bobby Brown is supposed to be, her simp friend's supposed to be smart, and to think that you're gonna go back to this place where they're doing this, most likely black ops or illegal type stuff, whatever it is.
At the very least, above top secret status.
Top secret stuff.
This is
There's whether it's top secret or illegal, they're not going to leave the evidence of this top secret or illegal thing just in this room that got destroyed. I mean,
they wouldn't leave it in the room that got destroyed. They wouldn't leave it completely unguarded, right?
Yeah, and they probably care more about that than the lives of their own employees.
Absolutely. The guards were ready to straight up murder the dude for sneaking into that part of the base as Godzilla was destroying it. Shit, sorry, I took a wrong turn and all this stuff. Which I think he did say something to that effect, if I remember right. He's like, I took a wrong turn, sorry. The guards aren't like, okay, well, get out of here, get out of here, get to your proper safe zone. No, they raised their guns. They're about to blow his head off.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm like. That was kind of silly as well. And then Millie Bobby Brown getting into the elevator, like, oh, where does this lead? Like, let's just sneak around this fucking. Let's just sneak around this base where we have no idea where anything leads. We really don't know what they're doing here, and none of us have any type of self-defense skills whatsoever.
But don't forget the best part about this highly secretive base where they're conducting volatile cybernetic experiments and apparently capturing, breeding, and testing this new weapon of theirs, Mechagodzilla, on skull crawlers.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. See, it's been. I mean, it's Monday now at the time of recording. I saw it on Thursday. It's been 5 days for me since I've seen it. I don't quite remember. Did they have any difficulty at all sneaking in this place?
No.
Absolutely not.
I guess they just used, that guy's clearance because he was a level 2 engineer to get in and.
Yeah, a level 2 engineer who is specifically told he does not have clearance for that place still just manages, I'm going to push these buttons on the elevator and get the secret to level 33. Like, it's absolutely nothing. And it's like, you've seen Stranger Things, yeah?
I've not watched it. No, but I know what it is.
Okay, yeah. Well, then I won't say anything more. But yeah. But yeah, it's very reminiscent. Like this section is very reminiscent specifically of the third season of Stranger Things. Not in a good way, unfortunately. And yeah, ultimately, they find Mechagodzilla. It's a close encounter with it. Through them, you find out that Apex, they built Mechagodzilla somehow. Somehow they have this technology, even though it's only 5 years since we had technology that's only a little bit above what we would reasonably have today.
Oh well, I did want to. I forgot you said that. So I did want to talk about that. So it's funny. When I was taking this college class, and I remember one of my professors. They did mention, which it doesn't explain the huge leap that you're talking about, but what he did mention is that the things that we think aren't possible nowadays are closer than we realize because
definitely
because previously technology didn't advance that quickly, and now every really year we're advancing faster than we were for 100 years. So it would take 100 years previously to advance as fast as we're doing in just a short amount of time in a year. Like if you look at cameras, 5 years ago, like cell phone cameras were horrible compared to what they're doing now.
Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah.
So I mean, it's not to justify that. I'm just saying that it's one of those things where what was it? He kind of attributed part of it to the invention of the computer and the invention of the internet. Those things kind of sped us up like super fast, but
at that point, all of a sudden you had the ability to disseminate information faster than you've ever been able to before, and share it globally. The interconnectedness that bred meant that the smartest people on the planet now had the easiest possible time we have ever had in human history communicating with each other to speed up the advancement of technology way more than it ever had been in the past.
Right. So, but it does not explain the speed in which they were able to do that.
It doesn't explain being able to go from, the reasonably super advanced jet of the Argo, which is a mobile, it's a giant flying wing mobile, laboratory base that is able to house multiple Ospreys. I don't know, how many out here in the audience have actually seen an Osprey up close. These are pretty decent. These are pretty damn big vehicles. I work across the street from a military base, a Marine base, that regularly flies Ospreys, almost daily, as part of their, Air Force training, or their air training and ground training and all that stuff. Because it's a Marine airfield that I work across the street from. These are big planes. These aren't some small like these are troop carriers. These are meant to carry dozens of people. And this super wing is big enough. The Argo in King of the Monsters is big enough to have a hangar that comfortably holds 3 of them. It's definitely more advanced than what we see today, but it's reasonably so. Mechagodzilla is literally a Godzilla-shaped Jaeger. Straight right down to how it's controlled. They use a mind control helmet. The only difference is, instead of it being 2 people inside the robot like in Pacific Rim, it's one guy in a bio supercomputer controlling it remotely.
Right.
How about you tell them about what the bio supercomputer is?
It's the Ghidorah head.
Yep, it's King Ghidorah's skull. So,
I mean, I don't understand that. I'm not a biologist. My aunt is. I'm not. right? But I don't know how much brain activity would be inside of a skull. I mean,
yeah, how much bioenergy could you like? Granted, Ghidorah's an alien. We don't know exactly what his physiology is,
right,
but
right,
realistically, how much bioelectrical energy, how much supercomputing energy could you extract from the top half of a dead alien skull?
Right. That's the one thing that I'm kind of like, a little iffy on. Oh, I mean, but you're right. It is an alien. Maybe its biology is completely different.
Don't think about it too much. Remember, this is big 8-punch fire lizard, breathe fire back movie. You don't gotta think about it. And then big robot fire lizard come and fight ape and fire lizard, and wrestling match in China ensues.
Yeah, I mean. So the thing is, because we were really focusing on Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, I figured we'll do that section since it's pretty much just a section in and of itself. It's like a whole separate movie.
So then you get the whole Kong aspect, like you said. We got past the girl, and then you get the guy, and I mean, I don't want to jump too far ahead yet, but the idea of the Hollow Earth, I thought was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this guy who's this specialist, obviously, because they need somebody who's supposedly this fringe scientist who's studied the Hollow Earth and has these theories on the Hollow Earth. And for some reason, they have entrances to the Hollow Earth that they just don't use. That it maybe because they didn't have the technology.
Well, they do mention that very, very, very briefly in Scientist Guy's backstory. And basically what it is his brother was part of an expeditionary team with Monarch that they found a chamber, that one of the tunnels that leads into the Hollow Earth in Antarctica. And this is all stuff that's like a huge part of Kong's part of the story. So they tried to go into the Hollow Earth, and then they found that there is a sort of gravity barrier in there, where basically gravity flips on its head once you pass it, and with the technology that they had at the time, of course, miraculously, Apex, naturally, of course, they have the technology to get past this somehow. They were able to build, like, what was it? The name was really stupid. Like, it was like a high energy or like high energy anti-gravity vehicle or heave. Yeah. It was just like the stupidest sounding name. But as a sort of side note, one thing, as dumb as I thought that these things were, one thing I kind of appreciated is that I'm pretty sure these were sort of a nod to one of the elements that they had in the Heisei era Godzilla movies, which was a trio, I should say, of ships, of fighting craft, starting in Godzilla 1985. Then they had a second version in Godzilla vs. Biollante, and the final version of it was in Godzilla vs. Destroyer. It was called the Super X. And it was like this super advanced military aircraft. And the original version of it looked pretty similar to those heaves. And the kind of weapons that they had were on them were similar too. So I think they were kind of supposed to be a nod to the Super X, which I appreciated it in that sense, but it further reinforced that whole thing of like the nonsensicalness of how Apex was able to make this crazy anti-gravity ship that can puncture this barrier that pretty much just destroyed the craft and pulped the brother of the scientist guy. His brother was leading the expedition, and his craft just got obliterated trying to pass through this energy field. But, of course, conveniently, Apex, they have the exact technology. You need to get past that, so long as they can get the kind of guide who can lead them through it. And who does that guide end up being? Well, it's Kong. Because the idea, I guess, that they theorize is, well, Kong probably came from the Hollow Earth originally, or at the very least, his parents did. And you were mentioning earlier about the axe, how he just sort of seemed like to randomly find the axe. They explained it with a one-off line from I think it was from the scientist guy, about how, like, oh, he theorized that the Titans share a genetic memory, and that's why Kong knew exactly where to go when he got down into the Hollow Earth. That's why he found the axe and then knew exactly what to do with it to do the thing that leads to the next thing that leads to the finale. But I'll let you go ahead and go over Kong's whole adventure and what happens with that.
Yeah, so obviously, they're traveling after the scientist guy gets, I guess, ex-girlfriend, or I don't know if that was his ex-girlfriend, but it kind of seemed like it.
It kind of seemed like maybe they were hinting at it, but they don't do anything with it in terms of a romantic relationship with them.
So then, then he convinces her, who's in charge of the Kong encampment, to allow them to use Kong to do this transport. So that he kind of uses it as like, this is an existential threat. Godzilla, we need to find this power source so that we can, but he never really explains to her, because he's never explained to anything either. There's
he doesn't.
We need this power source so we could, because we have a plan to deal with Godzilla.
He's never told what the plan is. He's just told there's a plan. We think there's a power source down there that we can use to build ways to defend ourselves against Godzilla. And he's just like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go with this. Doesn't question a thing.
No one asks any questions or anything at all. The girl, the doctor doesn't ask him any questions either. So I mean, and you got to think about the amount of money, resources that would go into an expedition like this to just do it blindly.
Yeah, they have that giant, like, just that giant naval escort alone. I don't remember how many destroyers it was, but you had the aircraft carrier, you had the big tanker transporter. It's like, these ships cost so much money to operate, and you've got dozens of them helping to escort Kong.
And then you got to think about it. This is a Monarch thing, right? Like a Monarch operation.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically being employed by a company called Apex to do this.
Yeah.
And it, like, they don't put two and two together. They're not thinking, oh, this is the same Apex, or is it an offshoot, or anything like that. I mean, Apex in the other movie was more of a terrorist organization. This is more of a corporation, a robotics corporation. But they're being employed by this company called Apex to do this, and they're transporting Kong, and that's when you find out that he's able to communicate with the girl, the deaf girl.
So, just something that I want to touch on real quick. Because I actually don't remember Alan Jonah. Yeah, the guy who was played, Tywin Lannister in King of the Monsters. Alan Jonah. His terrorist organization from that movie was called Apex?
Yes.
Jesus fucking Christ! I completely forgot that. Which, of course, perfectly explains why. Like, I mean, obviously the implication would have been that Alan Jonah bought the Ghidorah head at the end of King of the Monsters. Apex has the Ghidorah head to control Godzilla. Clearly, they bought it from him. But if his organization was called Apex, okay, yeah, I mean, there's clearly supposed to be. Well, maybe it wasn't intentional. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't even think about the fact that his organization was also called Apex, and that they just wanted to do it so that they could have the whole spiel from the bad guy about how humans should be the apex species on the planet once again. Look, I personally think they probably didn't even think about the fact that Alan Jonah's organization was also called Apex. But that is pretty fucking funny. That like, if it is actually a coincidence, that makes it even funnier that they didn't even think about the fact that the terrorist organization from the last movie was called Apex.
Let me make sure of that, because I believe so. Hold on. Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Yeah. So while you do that, basically, I'll continue on for a little bit. So yeah, scientist guy goes, talks with scientist lady in charge of the Kong project, tells her, Godzilla's attacking people. We don't know why. We need Kong. The world needs him. Like you all saw in the trailers. And then she's like, well, I don't like it, but, fine. We'll use Kong. And basically, they hatch this plan to sail Kong, like, in an area outside of Godzilla's territory. But of course, they're keeping him, they mentioned they're keeping him sedated. They've got, like, inside the chains and the manacles and stuff, they've got sedative that's pumping into him or something.
Just to clear it up, no, I don't believe they gave that organization a name.
Okay, yeah, because that would have been hilarious, though, if that turned out to be the case.
Okay, yeah, I don't think, they did not give that organization a name. They were just...
Okay.
But, right. Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
Well, no, this part's your segment.
So yeah, they're pumping all that stuff into him, and then you find out, like I said, that she can communicate with them, and eventually, which it makes sense. Apes, even in our real life, they have the ability to communicate with sign language.
At this point, we've pretty much found out that basically all gorillas know at least some kind of sign language to communicate with each other. So,
right.
It's not as true. Like, I think actually the thing that's funniest is how, when scientist lady sees the girl who's the key to everything communicating with Kong using sign language, and he signs back home, how she's just like completely shocked that he can actually do this and can't believe it. It's like, lady, you're a biologist working with a giant gorilla. You should already know this about gorillas.
Not only that, I don't know if you remember the first shot of the movie. There's a little girl walks by a camera because they have they have cameras in the encampment, and to never see the fact that he was communicating with. I mean, who's watching these cameras? Like, there's a little girl responsible for watching the camera.
Is she? Does it turn out that she's actually extremely nearsighted and just refuses to wear glasses or something? Are like all the dudes working there? Are they just like on Pornhub on their phones 24/7 or something? Like, how? Like, you've been watching him for 10 years. A 300-foot tall ape. You've been watching for 10 years. The little girl is able to sort of communicate with him. She shows him the little gorilla toy. He seems to react. He seems to like being around her. You've attempted to sign to him. You say as much. We're expected to believe that in 10 years, giant Kong was able to keep this hidden? I don't think so! The entire facility he was in, the whole thing, is screens and cameras. There probably isn't anywhere in there he could go to hide.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a silly thing. And, I mean, afterwards, she also has some really powerful echolocation abilities, I guess, because she's able to feel Godzilla coming.
Yeah, that was something interesting, like, trying to play on that heightened senses. Because she's deaf, she puts her hand on the side of the ship, and she can feel the vibration of Godzilla's, like, as he's coming up. Yeah, and then, fight happens. Which is fucking sweet.
Yeah, that scene, that whole fight sequence was really good. I mean, it was really good. And, I think it really played to both of their, strengths. And, Kong being a lot more athletic and agile, where Godzilla is clearly the more powerful of the two. Even when Kong hit him, Godzilla just took a step back, and then he instantly, like, open hand slapped him, and he fell.
Yeah,
and Kong fell. So he's clearly the more powerful of the two, and their fight. Yeah.
And to be a little bit fair too, it also helps for Godzilla the fact that he's got that big ass tail to stabilize with, and Kong doesn't. So Godzilla can throw all that weight into the hit, And then, you got the ship is tilting back and forth under their weight. And, of course, Kong gets pitched into the water. Multiple times.
Once he gets into the water and Godzilla is able to get a hold of him, a firm hold of him, it's over. It's over at that point. And obviously, he was going to drown. He was going to drown to death if they didn't do those depth charges to try to disorient Godzilla, which really doesn't make sense. I mean, is it going to disorient him and not Kong, or I don't get it. But
it's not exactly the most clearly thought out plan. It's like if those charges are going to disorient Godzilla, and Godzilla's got hold of Kong, exactly. How do they not disorient Kong too?
I
don't know, but he makes it to the top, gets back on the boat, and flops over half conscious.
Now this is the part where I thought was just freaking hilarious, because for multiple reasons. The doctor makes the idea of, hey, guy, the male doctor, he's like, hey guys, let's cut off all the edges. Let's make Godzilla think he's won. Right? And the response by the I guess whoever the military guy who's in charge,
the naval captain or whatever it is.
So he's just like, this better work. And it's like, okay, if it doesn't, what's our alternative? Like you're talking either we die or we have a chance at living, but we still may die.
Yeah, it's not like you're really, it's like, do you really think you're gonna get away on your slow ass boat that Godzilla capsized at the start of the fight with Kong on it? This better work. Dude, you already got capsized, and by pure luck, because how Kong was flailing around, managed to right yourself. You guys are dead to rights already. Shut the fuck up with this better work.
Yeah, that was the stupidest line, I think, in the entire film. I'm just like, dude, we're dead either way. And then the fact that it actually worked was actually something else that I thought was stupid.
Yeah. It is dumb, but at least it makes some sense, because it's like Godzilla was going through wrecking all that shit. He was wrecking all the ships. He wrecked Kong. They were jumping around between the ships, causing all kinds of havoc. And then for the ship to suddenly lose power and Kong to just be laying there, not moving, not making a sound and anything, I could see it being like, Godzilla's like, yeah, that's right, motherfucker, you stay down. And then he leaves. He's like, yeah, I showed you who's boss, bitch.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a different version of Godzilla than I guess we've seen, because, I mean, Godzilla with the Mutos, there was no mercy. Godzilla with Ghidorah, there was no mercy. His intention was to kill. It wasn't to you're gonna submit or die.
But to be fair, Ghidorah and the Mutos were fighting to the death. Kong, well, I mean, clearly in this case, Kong didn't. He passed out, and Godzilla was just like, I guess, satisfied with that. And
I see what you're saying. Maybe he is looking just to be kind of like the whole, because even in the animal kingdom, animals, they don't always fight to the death. If one submits, it's like, all right, now you go over there and I roll over here. So I guess that's kind of, you could kind of say that, but I don't know. It was a little bit different than I'm used to seeing, but
it doesn't make the most sense in the world.
I thought the next scene I thought you would actually, kind of like, because it's one of those homage scenes where they're now transporting Kong with
both of those were homages to King Kong versus Godzilla, because originally, transporting him by boat is an homage to the original King Kong versus Godzilla, because that's how they got Kong into Japan in the first place. Same thing. They tranquilized him, transported him by boat. Godzilla showed up and started wrecking the boat, and Kong woke up, and then they fought a bit, got to shore, and then the whole movie happens. And then the helicopters one, I think, It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I'm pretty sure that's how they moved him in the Dino De Laurentiis movie. But I will ask you this.
I think they used.
Yeah.
I think they used like balloons or something in one film. Or
I'm sure they did something like that in one of them. But let me ask you this. So they have a full, like, not just like ropes or chains or cables wrapped around like his underarms, under his back, under his legs and wrists and neck to hold him up. No, this is a full-ass net. A giant full-ass net being carried by like 3 ospreys and a bunch of, it's like 16 or so like choppers and stuff between like 16 or so vehicles between like the 3 or 4 ospreys and all the different choppers. How the fuck did they get that net under him? did they, like, they never show it. It's just like they're trying to figure out where to go because obviously they turned the ship off. That's what got Godzilla to leave. And then Scientist Lady's like, if we turn it back on, he's gonna come back. He's gonna know that we bullshit him. He's gonna come and wreck our faces. What do we do? And the Skarsgård brothers, like, how's Kong with heights? And then we just see the next scene. They're flying him over Antarctica. How the fuck did you get him off that net? Did you just like convince him to roll off the boat into the water and take him that way? It's the only way I can think of.
I don't know. I mean, and again, that's even more resources and money.
It's like, did you just have that on hand?
Yeah, this is a very expensive operation at this point. And I mean, to think that they had a net.
I just thought of something else. So the entire naval escort was destroyed. The only boat that was like there was maybe like 1 or 2 boats that were kind of okay, including the tanker that was holding Kong.
Right.
They were dead ass out in the middle of the ocean. No land to be seen anywhere on the horizon.
No.
How fucking long did it take them to get that net there? How many days, how many weeks were they out there waiting for that shit?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The whole film. I mean, you got to think about it. Even on that tanker, at one point they were flipped upside down.
Yeah. And it didn't sink.
At any point with their communications would be messed up. When you think about it, it's really a dumb thing. I mean, the whole, but again, they're transporting this giant gorilla to Antarctica on this giant net, and I mean the thing is afterwards, they're now trying to see if he'll take direction from the little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And after a couple of tries and promises that he may, find his family or something or whatever, he decides to go down there, and they do travel with him, and then you see the whole gravity inversion thing that they were talking about before.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I actually really like the scene in the Arctic.
I was just about to say that.
Where Kong is communicating with the little girl, because whoever it was that did the mocap for Kong, I'm not sure who it was, and I'm not sure how much like extra animation the animators did on Kong's facial expressions and that stuff, and his movements and everything beyond the mocap guys. But they did a great job like showcasing like that he's really uncomfortable and he's confused and he does not like being where he is. And, like, he's, like, kind of looking to the little girl, like, because she's the one he talks to. Like, basically, like, what the fuck's going on? Like, he's confused and upset, and, like, you can tell that, basically he does not want to be there. And that scene, I thought, was really just it was great visual storytelling, because it's purely through Kong's expressions and his mannerisms, like, they did a really great job. Whoever it was that was doing the mocap, whoever the animators were in charge of Kong with that scene, did a top-notch job of like expressing Kong's character in that moment. It was really well done. I really liked that part.
Yeah, and then the scene where they got into the Hollow Earth was really, I thought it was visually really, it was good.
Yeah,
it was really well.
Yeah, now personally, the whole journey to the center of the earth kind of story and trope that they were doing, thought it was kind of dumb. I do still think it's kind of dumb. I've softened on it a bit more since seeing the movie, but I rolled my eyes quite a few times at that moment, and I will admit, like, what made me soften up was kind of thinking about, like, well, you know, I have to remember, because in that moment, I almost sort of forgot that it was Godzilla versus Kong, because we follow Kong through this entire portion, and we basically don't see anything of Godzilla until the center of the earth portion is done. Like, we go back and forth between Kong and then the whole adventure with Millie Bobby Brown. And that was unfortunate because it distracted from this, what was a cool little segment, a cool little set-piece segment for Kong. You know, and nice character bits of him returning to his ancestral home and all this stuff. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it's cool and it's nice to see, and it's just a nice. They did a good job, even though it doesn't make sense. It still did a good job of expanding the character of Kong that we saw in Skull Island, and really helping to cement more that he's like his role in all of this is to sort of be the link between humanity and the Titans, kind of thing. At least in my opinion, but.
Yeah, going back to, you know, the whole Millie Bobby Brown thing, you know, before we even get into the whole throne room, like, they had this whole scene with her where they
the throne room.
mistakenly, like, get inside of this container that's going to be transported to Hong Kong, exactly where they need to go, right?
Yeah. And like we mentioned before, no resistance, nobody spots them, they just walk in. Like, seriously, they go through the entire adventure. Like, they get into the ruins of the base, nobody spots them. Like, they kind of sneak into the ruins of the base, nobody spots them. They get into the elevator, they get to level 33 with no problem. They go, start looking around, nobody spots them. You see people walking all around in the background doing their stuff. They're just able to open the doors, get through everywhere they go. There's no guards, there's scientists walking around, nobody notices them. They just happen to be making the perfect moves to avoid everybody. They walk into this pod, it goes into an anti-gravity chamber, and starts zipping to Hong Kong, and while they're in the pod, before it closes on them, they realize, like, wait a minute, these are like, you know, these are skull crawlers inside of these, like, embryonic chambers. What's Apex doing with skull crawlers? And then, the door shuts, and now they're getting shuttled off in this crazy, like, maglev tunnel that goes from Miami, basically. It's not exactly Miami, but it's you know, the Gulf of Mexico in the U.S. to Hong Kong.
It was their base in Pensacola.
Yes, right? That was it. Pensacola. It goes from Pensacola, Florida to fucking Hong Kong. A straight shot.
Yo, and you know,
okay.
I don't know if people have ever flown.
That was one thing I thought was funny, how they're showing, like, for whatever reason, even though it's kind of hinted at that nobody is supposed to be inside of these things. These are supposed to be storage containers that just get zipped across. Yet, conveniently, there's a mileage there's a screen that reads the miles per hour that you're traveling, just so that the audience can know, oh, this thing's traveling at 700 miles an hour.
Yeah, I mean, that
convenient.
I mean, there's no harnesses or seatbelts for them.
Yeah, like, they don't fall over. No G-forces.
Yeah, listen. By the time that thing stopped, they would have been wall art.
Yes,
the inside.
Seriously,
you know,
because that thing, it wasn't like that thing did a slow start. It was just basically like it goes into the thing, gets floated up, and then just starts going at about launches at about 200 miles an hour out of nowhere. Yet they don't even stumble when that happens. It's like, okay, yeah, sure.
They would have been wall art inside.
Yeah, that God, yeah, I forgot about that part. I'm glad you brought that part up. I did want to mention that part too. So, yeah, But yeah, so Hollow Earth, they start following Kong. You know, he fights a couple of flying snake monsters down there.
Warbat.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I didn't know what they were called. He fights those things, kills them. You know, he starts running along. They find like the central area with the central power source, and it's like you see these rocks with this kind of like blue glowing alloy ribbon through them, just sort of floating through the air. He kind of pokes a couple of them to see how they float. Then he sort of like jumps up and kind of swims through the air, sort of like you would in space. Gravity reverse, and then find this marking of a hand, like a red handprint on this cliffside, very similar to what they showed in Kong Skull Island in that one scene where he kind of like holds his hand up to the cliff, like the bloody hand marking on the cliff.
Right.
And there's another one on the opposite side. He puts his hand on that and pushes these giant doors open. And there's this like temple, this throne room temple inside, with like all this like arched architecture and stuff, kind of crude and all that. But he walks in there, he finds like the corpse of an old Godzilla, and there's this axe embedded in it, and he picks it up and he like looks at it a bit. Kong looks at it, and he's just like, he lifts it up, roaring and stuff, like he just knows what to do with it. And my wife and I were talking about this afterwards, and she said it before I did, but I was thinking the same thing. I found it a little hard to believe that Kong's ancestors, these you know, granted intelligent, clever, they understand how to use weapons, they have ingenuity, can figure things out in the moment, can make rudimentary tools. We see him do it in Skull Island, we see him do it in this. I find it a little hard to believe, though, that they figured out architecture. And this will lead to some, like a final point that I kind of have, so let's kind of keep this in mind.
Well, before you get to that, I do want to say that that's the whole thing. Remember, I was telling you before in the previous one about Godzilla vs. Kong, where they kind of want to do a prequel series to show their relationship with humanity in the past.
Okay.
So it could be plausible that ancient man found their way to Hollow Earth in worshiping these, because that's what the whole idea was, that they were worshiping these giant titans.
And it's definitely possible, but the problem then is you'd also have to explain, how was ancient man able to get down there, get past this barrier that modern man couldn't until they invented a super special machine that was able to magic them through. You know, and this is why, like, for the visuals and as sort of a generalized concept, I like the Hollow Earth, but I'm a little iffy on the direction they took with it in this movie in terms of how it ties in with the previous one and with Kong Skull Island, because the Godzilla King of the Monsters, you know, they did the Hollow Earth thing where when they were trying to find Godzilla, you know, the sub that was looking for him got, like, you know, there was the super strong current that sucked them into one of those chambers in the Hollow Earth, and it was hinted at more that, like, okay, yeah, you know, the Hollow Earth isn't literally like the core of the Earth is hollow. It was hinted at more like there's chambers within the crust of the Earth, like big chambers that these creatures could have lived in near where the mantle is and all this stuff, which is exactly what we see. And remnants of the ancient civilization are in these chambers. Like, these civilizations sunk into these Hollow Earth chambers that travel around the crust of the Earth, not literally into the center of the Earth. Which, yeah, kind of, I don't know. That was my biggest problem with it, is the way they set it up in this one. They sort of wrote themselves into a hole with explaining away some of the stuff they did in this movie.
I do want to leave my point about the Hollow Earth for the end, and that's more towards like
that's fine.
They could go into. So continuing with the film.
So
got it.
So as they come into this big chamber with these these crude vaulted arches, you see these like three geometric pillars, or they're square obelisks and stuff, tall obelisks that they look like they were put there and crafted by someone or something. And it's obvious that this is where they're going to find the power source that they were talking about throughout throughout Kong's portion of the movie. So Kong's going in. He goes up. He sits on basically a big ass throne, which I had a bit of a chuckle at. I thought that was kind of funny. Thinking okay, so did Kong's ancestors just make themselves a throne? We are the kings. Here is our throne. All right, I still kind of have a hard time believing that literal giant gorillas. We're not talking human level intelligences. Gorillas just figured out this architecture. So, I am definitely curious to see how they're going to explain where this architecture came from, and depending on the route they take, if they ever explain this in the future, it's going to lead me to some questions of why didn't you go this route, like XYZ route with Mechagodzilla, but just like you have thoughts on the Hollow Earth you want to save for later, I'm going to save these thoughts on the Hollow Earth for later too. So he gets there, he sits on the throne, and he sees how convenient. There's a divot in the ground, the exact size and shape of his axe. And he puts it in there. And like a video game, the axe starts glowing. And then this whole design on the ground starts glowing that encircles the throne, and it is literally Godzilla. An art carving of Godzilla in the ground, glowing with blue, radioactive energy. And then they realize this is the power source that Apex was after. And oh my god, we forgot to mention the CEO of Apex's daughter. We completely forgot to mention her.
Because she's such a really almost
her entire character. She's not a character. She's not even an archetype. Her entire role is to be there, to look hot, and to be a haughty bitch. That's all she does. And she's a plot device to get the source of this energy, which, as it happens, because you notice the spines of this Godzilla carving all light up along with the outline of the carving itself to show that it's Godzilla. And that's when you realize the axe looks like one of Godzilla's spines. So all these other glowing spines are different axes. And there's these different stones used to make this axe. And they summon up a little crab robot that just cuts out a little cylindrical piece, which I thought was going to be they cut this piece out, and then this thing's going to fly back and deliver it to Apex. But apparently Apex can recreate this power source just by the RoboCrab scanning it and transmitting it over Wi-Fi.
Yeah, in less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, seriously, from the center of the Earth to Hong Kong. I mean, let me ask you something, ladies and gentlemen. You ever gone through a long tunnel and tried to get cell service? That's just a regular mountain. This is from the center of the Earth to Hong Kong.
Yeah, and I mean, the funny thing is with her character, I mean, I really didn't get the vibe that she was a villain, and I kind of thought that turn towards this part of the film was stupid. Yeah, because I'm like, well, maybe you really believe in whatever your father's doing, or maybe you really thought. I kind of thought that her turning into this villain and then really getting herself killed was stupid. And I'm not just saying that because I thought she was hot. I'm saying
it comes out of nowhere. It's all of a sudden. It's she was cold and she was a bitch and she was very full of herself and talking down to people, but just all of a sudden now it's okay, we're here, we're gonna get and even then with the Apex CEO guy, because that means that his turn of just now I am the mad scientist supervillain, it came out of nowhere too, because his whole thing is he's portrayed throughout the whole movie as he's eccentric. Yeah, he's one of those kind of guys who thinks, hey, man, I've got money. I've got people who have a lot of ingenuity. I have a lot of drive and a lot of ingenuity myself. If I want to make something happen, I will use what I can to make it happen. But he's never portrayed as really,
this villain.
Yeah, he's never really portrayed as villainous. We're supposed to think he is, and he gives a villain monologue speech, and at that point, yeah, he's portrayed as villainous. But really, what he's doing, especially with building Mechagodzilla, when he explains it, anybody who takes 2 seconds to think about the scenario would be like, no, yeah, that makes sense to do that. Because as far as we know, with the way it's set up, you find out, obviously, Godzilla is wreaking havoc and doing this stuff, and coming onto land, destroying stuff, because he's reacting to Mechagodzilla. He can hear the alpha waves being emanated from the different components of Mechagodzilla, and that's driving him to seek out these things and try and destroy them. And there's a specific reason why that we'll touch into a little bit after we finish the Kong thing, but it's never shown. It's not like the dude that Walter, or Wallace, or whatever his name, Walter, is having them it's never hinted at that he's having them do this on purpose. Like he's intentionally making it so Godzilla's rampaging. It's always played up that it's an unintended side effect. This is happening because Apex is doing this, but it's never played that Apex is doing this to make this happen. So we have no reason really to think that he's up to anything sinister apart from the typical Hollywood line of, oh, well, he's a corporate billionaire, so he's automatically bad.
Yeah, right. I mean, and like I said, I feel like, yeah, he had this turn. His daughter had this turn. I mean, it kind of, like I said, it was just one of those things where she was, I'm not going to say she was in more of the film than he was, but, she
she pretty much was. I mean, it was probably fairly equal actual screen time between them. In terms of actual speaking time, probably pretty equal between them, but in terms of actual screen time, yeah, she was in the film more than he was, just because she was in more of the background shots of what was going on with Kong.
Yeah, but the thing is the entire time, I never got this vibe that she was a villain. Like you said, I thought she was a little snobby, intelligent, rich, thinks she's smarter than everyone else. Her father's extremely successful. She's the heir to that throne, and she knows it. That's kind of the vibe.
She's a rich bitch.
And she even had kind of like a comedic relief, to it, to her a little bit. Even
a little bit, every now and then.
Yeah, before this, this villainous turn, and then it's just like, you can't take this piece of thing from the, and then she's like, oh, everyone raised their guns, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What is this doctor gonna do to you? I mean, you just tell, listen, lady, this is the reason we came down here. The entire reason we funded this entire expedition, and the reason we funded this and wasted all of this money to get here was this. You're not going to tell me that I'm not going to take a sample, and we're not actually taking the sample. We're just scanning it.
And that was the thing too. Is like the doctor never took issue with them taking the sample. He expected them to do that. That's why he went down there. I remember his whole contention was like, whoa, wait, you're just sending the data straight to Apex to use now? We should probably study this thing. This is an unknown element. And then she's just like, my father gets what he wants. And all the soldiers raise their guns, forgetting that King Kong is standing above them. It's like,
yeah, right there. Like, wait a minute.
And of course, he immediately, Kong sees this. Sees like, oh, he's pointing the guns at the two humans that the tiny human I like is always around. And roars at them, and of course they shit their pants and get attacked by weird bat birds that are like weird bat owl vulture things that are somehow ugly and cute at the same time. It was really weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's like those what are those lemurs with the big eyes?
Yeah, kind of.
But yeah, I mean, and that was interesting. I guess you're seeing the different creatures down there, but then when she like hops into the heave, and then she's like, "Shoot Kong, get him out of the way." That is the stupid. And again, something so dumb.
Yeah, and don't forget too. There's something that happens before that too. While all this is going on, is as the energy source gets activated and everything, that's when Godzilla has come ashore to Hong Kong and is starting his rampage. Because you find out at that point is when Millie Bobby Brown and the simp and the blogger guy, they find the hangar where Mechagodzilla is. And then they find out what the Skullcrawlers are there for. It's to test Mechagodzilla's capacities against other Titans. And at 40, they reveal, his little laser and his power source and stuff is working at 40% capacity, and it's easy to figure out even before that. Mechagodzilla is why they want the power source, because whatever energy source they have, probably like a nuclear reactor or something, by itself is not enough to sustain him for long term. He's able to be active for a couple of minutes at 40% capacity, laser his way completely down the middle of the Skullcrawler, splitting it in half while it does so. In like this really brutal fashion, which one thing I did find funny is how they conveniently turned the Skullcrawler's blood green now, so that since they're doing this gory cut it down the middle thing, they wouldn't end up with an R rating by splattering dark red blood and gore all over this room, even though it was red in Kong Skull Island. But yeah, so that's what the Skullcrawlers were there for, to test Mechagodzilla. And you figure out that's what it is. So Mechagodzilla goes active for a moment, which sends out those alpha waves again. Godzilla comes ashore, shit's going down, and then the energy source in the center of the Earth activates. And Godzilla feels it, and he knows what's going on, and he charges up in the most neon way he ever has in this trilogy. Like goddamn, his eyes didn't glow that bright when he was fully irradiated by the nuke Serizawa set off in King of the Monsters. Holy shit, he was glowing. He was glowing brighter neon than those neon buildings that were surrounding it. And he atomic breaths a hole into the center of the Earth. And that's when the lady decides to get in the heave and tell them, "Shoot Kong, get him out of the way," so she can try to fly out that hole and get out. What does Kong do?
Crushes the damn heave, which is, that's what I was like, if it was me, if I was the writer or director, I would think, what, let's keep her alive because we're gonna kill her father, right?
Well, hold up. There's a certain detail of it that I was hoping you would mention. How it shoots him.
Oh, yeah,
he grabs it. He looks inside, and then he makes like, "Oh, it's this bitch." Crush! Like it's a soda can. And she's like, no! Blows it up in his hand. And he's just like, meh. Like a bug. Like it means nothing to him. he looks so bored when he does it.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, interestingly enough, when you think about it, for this machine to be able to survive the entry of the Hollow Earth, when it's supposed to be like this thing that would normally flatten anything, this inverse gravity field, again, it's just one of those things. It's a little silly to think that he would easily just be able to like crush it, that simply.
No. See, but you don't understand. They had the magic power of neon glowing around them. That's why they made it through.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said, I wouldn't have killed the character. I just thought it was kind of senseless. But I understand what they're doing. They were really trying to kill off any potential loose ends in case this is of the Monsterverse. Yeah. If this is the Monsterverse, they didn't want any loose ends. Which I really don't like that take, because you never know, even if it is the end, you might want to pick it up in a year or two, or you could just continue it with Kong, or whatever, who knows. But
yeah, and they leave it open enough for a story to potentially continue come the end, of course, which we'll get to. But Yeah, no. In terms of any potential villains from this movie, they're not coming back. They're all dead.
Right.
So, yeah.
So then Godzilla now screams down the hole that he just created, and
it really felt to me like a like I said, wrestling. Like, he's in the ring calling out the other guy. He's like, "You want to fight Stone Cold? Come out and fight me!" Like, he's Triple H calling out Stone Cold, which is not the best example given how this fight ends up going. But yeah, Jareth and what was your other friend's name?
Freebie.
Yeah, Jareth and Freebie might deny this all they like, but yeah, we're gonna break down the Hong Kong fight now. So yeah, Godzilla screams down the hole. Kong crawls out of it. The Skarsgård brother and scientist lady and the girl who's the key to everything hop in the heave, and somehow the Skarsgård brother just knows how to fly the heave. This piece of technology he's only seen for the first time today. He just knows how to use it perfectly, I guess.
And all right, they follow Kong. They follow Kong back up to regular Earth.
Yep, up to Hong Kong. Fly super close past him, nearly get hit. Fly just past Godzilla, nearly get hit. Very much feeling like you're on Star Tours at Disneyland, but it's Godzilla and Kong instead of Star Wars.
Yeah, and they're having this really epic fight. I thought that. Oh yeah. I thought the choreography for the fight was done very well. It showed both monsters, and
yeah, Kong is sitting there doing what you've seen him do for most of the movie. He's leaping off buildings, climbing over stuff, using his agility, figuring out how to use the axe against Godzilla. Figures out early on just because Godzilla starts trying to blast him with the breath. And he just has that natural instinct that people, like any animal that knows how to use any kind of tool as a weapon would do, where something tries to hit you with it, and you have something hard that can stop it from hitting you. You hold it up, and well, look at that! Now it made it glow and it absorbed it. So he learns in a way that feels reasonable to this movie throughout the fight how to better use this weapon. And yeah, it's a pretty balanced fight for the most part. Until I don't know, and sadly I don't remember exactly what it was that caused him to lose the axe. I think was it Godzilla smacked it out of his hand with his tail or something? I don't remember exactly.
I think he tried to attack Godzilla with it and he missed and it got stuck in a building.
No! I remember what it was. He attacked Godzilla with it. It's when he caught Godzilla in the leg. So he catches Godzilla in his leg, and it gets stuck. Godzilla rips it out and throws it away. And at that point, the fight turns very much against Kong.
Well, there is one part that I do want to mention, which I thought was part of the homage, which that might have happened after that, where he tries to... No, I think it did. It definitely did happen after that, where he tries to do the atomic breath, and he sticks the handle of the axe.
Oh, yeah.
In Godzilla's mouth, which is the whole thing where he stuck the tree.
Yep, yeah, it's a direct throwback to when King Kong shoved the tree in Godzilla's mouth in the original movie.
Right. So yeah. I thought that was pretty cool.
I got a big old grin on my face and a little chuckle when I saw that. Because I knew, too, the very first time I saw the axe in the trailers, one of my first thoughts was, when's he going to shove the handle down Godzilla's throat? And sure enough, it happened.
Yeah, so once he tosses the axe, I mean, he's really on a run at that point, and Godzilla is really trying to hit him with the atomic breath, which he eventually, with all the leaping and jumping, he does and hiding behind buildings, he does eventually catch him, and he does the whole laughing that we mentioned earlier in the recording.
Yeah, and one of the things that was kind of different, I've never seen somebody have Godzilla move this way before, is, at one point when he was chasing Kong around after Kong lost the axe and Kong's scrambling to get away, Godzilla's crawling after him like a crocodile almost, literally snapping at his heels, and at one point bites his foot.
That was That was that was
There's
after he regains the axe and he does the whole thing where he absorbs all the energy and the explosion
yeah,
happens.
yeah.
And then when Godzilla wakes up, he's doing that whole neon glowing thing, but he's crawling around on his back, on all fours. Which
Yeah.
I thought that cool. I thought that was very cool. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looked cool, but the one thing for me that it raised is the idea is like, because the proportions of Godzilla's body, his rear legs are a lot longer than the forelegs, than the arms, and so, but he's crawling around like on his belly like he's a crocodile, and of course, the camera is set up so like you see his forelimbs, like he's crawling around on his forelimbs, snapping at Kong's heels, but they very intentionally do not show his legs. And I think they did that on purpose because in order for him to be crawling like that, he would have had to be crawling on all fours on his hands and knees like a toddler, and that would have looked ridiculous.
yeah,
But the way they framed it did make it look pretty neat, and it was kind of an interesting way of making him look pretty menacing.
Yeah, when he first got up, it was interesting because I think it was like a change in tactics after he realized what the axe could do, and he was more on because he couldn't see Kong anymore because Kong was now like on this skyscraper, and so he was kind of like looking around for him, and then that's when Kong throws like this little crane, and it hits a building, and then Godzilla looks, and then he jumps off the building, tries to wrestle with him like you were saying.
Yeah, gets on his back and yeah.
That
reminded me a lot of like one of my buddies. He was a big guy. He'd gotten in fights in the past. Like he'd had situations because in some of the places that he used to live, you'd have a lot of those fucking smaller guys. Like there was like lots of gang activity, lots of smaller dudes trying to prove themselves by taking on and trying to take out bigger dudes. And my buddy was the biggest guy at his school in terms of just sheer size. And he had it happen at one point where this little dude did exactly what Kong did. Like, just out of nowhere, he was like talking shit and stuff, and my buddy was ignoring him. And he just out of nowhere jumps on his back, starts trying to punch him in the head. And what did my friend do? If I remember correctly, exactly what Godzilla did. Basically, just like, all right, well, you're on my back. I'm just going to fall backwards into something, and you're going to be squished between me and something else.
Right. Which, and like I said, both competitors in this fight really had their own high level of intelligence on how to try to win. And
that's one thing cool about this movie too. We know already from Skull Island and then following Kong throughout this movie, we know Kong learns. We know from Godzilla 2014, Godzilla has the capacity to learn because of how he takes out the male Muto. When the male Muto's swooping around to fly at him, after trying to like snap at him and grab at him and missing because the thing is smaller and much more agile, it like swoops at him after Godzilla catches his foot and throws him, and he happens to wiggle free, swoops around, he's flying, and what does Godzilla do? He's like, all right, well, trying to catch him regularly hasn't worked. Trying to, bite at him and claw at him hasn't worked. He keeps getting away, so he waits. And when the male Muto starts getting close enough that he can't avoid, he turns and wham, slams him into the building with his tail. He learned in the moment, this is going to work better to catch him because he's going to be too close. He's going to be caught between me and the building and he's going to die. And we see more of that in this movie as Godzilla fights Kong. He starts figuring out ways to get around Kong's tricks as Kong is figuring out ways to get around his. And then they start figuring things out together when Mechagodzilla joins the fight too.
Yeah, I just think that what happened is a couple things that were kind of established, I think, within this film, which we've seen in the past films, which is Godzilla is definitely a lot more durable than Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And he's clearly much physically stronger.
Yeah.
And so he's really able to overpower Kong, where I think it was kind of like a war of attrition, where Kong just got worn down. And because of the size that Godzilla has, he just really couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, and come the end of the second round, it's like the Skarsgård brother mentions as the fight's going on, like, oh, it looks like Kong just won round 2, which that line didn't make sense to me in that moment, because it was like, well, no, the fight is still, like, they're still knuckle down, drag out brawling. Like, they're still hardcore fighting each other, and he's just like, Kong has won this round. What the fuck are you talking about? This round is literally still happening.
Yeah, it was after the explosion with the axe. I think they.
Yeah.
I think that maybe they were thinking that maybe Godzilla was down for the count, but he immediately got right back up.
Yeah, he gets back up like it's fucking like it was nothing, basically. And then Kong at a point he loses the axe again. I think that was when he got it stuck in Godzilla's leg, and Godzilla threw it away. It was at that point. Kong lost the axe. Godzilla basically gets him, gets his foot when he's doing the alligator crawl, and then manages to crawl on top of him and is just clawing the shit out of his chest. Like, just ripping into him until he climbs on top and just stomps Kong. Literally stomps him into the ground. And basically, you see him, wrenching his foot into Kong's chest, kind of very much like he did to Ghidorah, but with a little more restraint, because he didn't just immediately cave Kong's chest in.
Right. I think that there was a little bit of respect there.
Yeah, it's like...
But,
you could tell Godzilla... for whatever reason, Godzilla wasn't actively trying to kill Kong. He was still trying to just make him submit. So I think... I kind of take it as, it's supposed to be the wrestling thing. Because he's sitting there, wrenching his boot into his opponent's chest. That's a classic wrestling move. That was all homage to wrestling right there. But, yeah. Screaming in each other's faces, the whole thing.
They have their little epic scene where they're both yelling at each other.
Yeah.
And, Kong eventually passes out.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's when, the whole scene inside back with Millie Bobby Brown where they get captured and they
finally
now right, they now activate the
fully armed and operational Mecha Godzilla.
Godzilla. And then you have this scene where the Serizawa's son, he's inside of he's about to pilot Mecha Godzilla. And it never really explains what happened.
Yeah. I have a hypothesis, but I'll let you go ahead and explain this explain what the scene is before or what goes on before I talk about it.
Right. So they power it up, he puts the helmet on, his eyes roll into the back of his head, and then as they come back down, it's kind of like this thing where it's like, oh, pilot disconnected. Okay, pilot got disconnected. And then it kind of hints that the Ghidorah supercomputer took over whatever, I don't know. And then it electrocutes...
it's not made clear.
Yeah, it electrocutes the Serizawa character, and he appears to be dead. Not saying he is, but that was a lot of electricity.
I'm pretty sure, like you said, tying up the loose ends just in case there's not a sequel.
Right. So he appears to be dead, and then the Mecha Godzilla gains sentience, and as the Simmons guy is having this...
Yeah. Walter Simmons is having his 1970 style villain speech, where he is in his nice pressed suit, and in this fancy laboratory, holding his whiskey in his hand, looking up and away to the right with his eyes half closed, as behind him, Mechagodzilla's activating and turning around and looking through the window, and you see Millie Bobby Brown and her little crew are looking at the dude, and then back behind him and backing away, and he goes through this whole monologue, not noticing until he's almost done, and then he's looks at them wait, what are you guys doing? Turns around, and Mechagodzilla's already got his arm raised, ready to destroy the thing. It's just, oh shit.
Yeah, and I mean, he died.
That was...
I'm sitting there thinking, you're trying to reason. You're trying to reason with a teenager.
Yeah. Well, the great thing is, is they're playing it up. Like, they play it up like it's this, like the 1970s style Godzilla, 1960s, 1970s style Godzilla villain speech. You know, the crazy mad scientist, the megalomaniacal alien that wants to take over the world. Those are the kind of speeches those characters always gave in the Showa movies. But what he's actually saying about how, hey, Godzilla, Kong, these titans are an existential threat to humanity. We should probably have something to counter that threat, and I have made a prototype of something that could effectively counter that threat. Obviously, in typical Godzilla movie fashion, the humans always have to fuck up. They can't get anything right, so it blows up in his face.
But I mean,
sort of literally.
The concept is interesting. I don't see why it would have to be something that you're doing without like consent of the government or consent, because it's just like, listen, we can't always rely, like, even if we're saying Godzilla's a good guy, that's cool, right?
Yeah.
But we can't always rely on Godzilla, right? Because
you cannot trust that a wild animal is always going to behave in a certain way. I mean, that's literally one of the final lines of the last movie. Jesus, good thing he's on our side for now.
And look at what happened though.
Yeah,
when Ghidorah activated all those titans.
Yep.
And there was nothing anyone could do.
Exactly.
Now we're waiting for him to defeat Ghidorah, maybe, right? Maybe defeat Ghidorah, and hoping that him defeating Ghidorah is going to stop these other titans from, you know. And so it's just like the idea of a Mecha Godzilla, I didn't think was something that needed to be like this whole villainous, you know.
It's totally reasonable, given what we know from the previous movies and from this one. Everything he's saying is completely reasonable. Now,
right? So it could have came from a place of actual, like, not villainy, but it could have came from a place of like, listen, I really want to get this done. I really believe in what I'm doing. I really believe that. I'm not saying we need a weapon against Godzilla. We don't know, but just in case there's other titans that wake up, or these other titans that are still around. What if we don't know how old Godzilla is? We don't know what his lifespan is. He can die in 2 years. You know, so I mean, the idea of it is really, I mean, it's not something that really had to be treated as this evil thing.
Well, and that's kind of the problem. Is like, I get why they did it. You know, it's a throwback. He's like, they're obviously trying to play him up as, you know, the mad scientist, corporate bad guy. Like, they're playing him up as all the tropes at once of the type of bad guys from the 70s movies, the 60s and 70s movies. The sleazy corporate guy, or well, not really sleazy. He's actually just very smooth. But, you know, the fast talking, you know, corporate, like, eccentric. The mad scientist, and, you know, the human supremacist playing God, like, all at once. He's supposed to represent all of these things at once, which unfortunately doesn't work when you compare his actions in the movie and why Godzilla is rampaging. Because, like we mentioned, Godzilla isn't rampaging because Apex is purposefully making him rampage. It's not like they stole the Orca plans or got their hands on the Orca after working with Monarch and were using that to lure Godzilla into rampaging and then saying, look, we can't trust Godzilla anymore. He's rampaging. We need somebody to fight him. If they did that, his villain speech would make a lot more sense. But it's literally just an accident. It's literally an accident.
But the craziest part about it is that's kind of what I was thinking before when I sent you the message, that I thought that they were going to set up the fight between him and Kong. That I thought that was their whole thing. Let's do this, and we're gonna lure Godzilla in to attack. Then we're gonna say, oh well, we have Kong in this encampment. Oh well, let's see if he's gonna be our protector, and throw him out there to lose. Yeah. And then once he lost, they're gonna say, "Oh, guess what? We've been building something just in case we have this Mechagodzilla and we want to reveal it to the world now because
that would have worked way better for the kind of like villain message they wanted to put in with the guy, but that's not at all what they did, and that's not at all how the movie portrayed Godzilla's attacks. It was literally a chance accident. Well, technically, and I hypothesize not really a chance accident, and this is what I want to get into now. So, Mechagodzilla activates, and he starts ripping his way out. He becomes self-aware, starts ripping his way out of the mountain underneath the Apex headquarters, which, by the way, I had a laugh about, and I even mentioned my wife. I straight up told her, like, holy shit, they just straight up made the Apex headquarters look like the Tyrell Corporation from Blade Runner. It's seriously the Tyrell and Wallace Pyramid from Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. Deadass, that same exact kind of imagery. Of the super mega corp pyramid building, like very Illuminati-esque. Mechagodzilla rips his way out.
Not to cut you off, but that's another thing that I think we should cover sometime in the future.
Oh yeah, we will definitely cover Blade Runner at some point. Absolutely. So Mechagodzilla, after Kong gets his ass basically knocked out, like he's barely conscious. Mechagodzilla rips his way out, and Mark, the main guy from the previous movie, Millie Bobby Brown's dad, is in Hong Kong. Just got there with like a helicopter escort somehow. Just happened to get there in time, to beat Godzilla. Mechagodzilla rips its way out of the mountain. Everyone's like, "What the hell is that?" Because nobody knew that Apex was doing this. And then shenanigans happen, fights happen. Mechagodzilla starts beating the tar out of Godzilla. I noticed something interesting. I mentioned this to you in your Discord server. I don't know if you noticed it when you watched it the other day, but if you listen closely, I'm very, very certain I heard this. I'm going to have to try to find the scene again and see if I can re-listen to it and catch it again, but I'm almost positive when Mechagodzilla rips his way out of the mountain and he makes his, kind of hydraulic-sounding roar, I swear that I heard Ghidorah's roar mixed in with that as a background roar. And that is what kind of told me that, okay, this is Ghidorah. I think they're trying to hint that this is Ghidorah taking over. That this is kind of like Ghidorah coming back, almost. And that's why Godzilla is rampaging the way he is. And why, as, Mechagodzilla activates, because Godzilla's, on the verge of about to kill Kong. He's, stepping on his chest. He's about to just, cave it in like he did to Ghidorah. And then he just stops. And when he stops happens to be when Mechagodzilla activates inside the mountain, and then he rips his way out. So I think it's okay, he senses that there's this this threat that he came here originally, that this alpha signal he followed originally, he senses it. It's still here. It's not Kong like he thought it was.
No, you're right. I do think that that was Ghidorah taking over, and it's interesting. Again, like I said, the only reason it, I guess, makes any semblance of sense is because it's an alien. Ghidorah is an alien. But if biology holds true,
no way in hell. How much can we argue biology when you consider the fact that any creature the size of Godzilla or Kong would have collapsed under the size of its own weight? At less than half the size they are. So, ignore the logic. Just have fun with the bright colors and the robot dinosaur and the real fire dinosaur going smashy. Because that's what happens. And,
I mentioned to you about a week or so ago that I spoiled the movie for myself. I watched the end of the film. And it wasn't the thing that I wanted, because I told you that there was something that I wanted to know. And what I wanted to know wasn't who won between Godzilla and Kong. That wasn't what I wanted to know. What I wanted to know was who was the one who initiated the fight between Mechagodzilla? Was it Kong or was it Godzilla? and that's kind of what I wanted to know. I just
Yeah.
So the and I told you that I had my complaints. Now we've obviously went through a lot of things that we found a little silly throughout the film, but the complaint that I really had, which kind of goes into something that you said in our very first episode about this period, and then the episode about Godzilla vs. Kong, which is people were complaining about the strength of Godzilla, saying that he's weak. And I think that this showing against Mechagodzilla doesn't really help the case. I think that was too much of a wash. I mean, listen, I knew that he was going to need help, but I'm just like, dude, he's getting his ass whooped. Like, I didn't think it would be that bad.
Yeah.
You know,
he gets a couple of hits in, but he gets stomped pretty fucking hard. And yes, he just got done fighting Kong. So, he's tired. He's a bit beat up. He took a hit. He took a solid hit with that axe to the leg. He took a hit to the face with that axe that literally blew up in his face. And he's taken some good hits. He's not at 100%. Mechagodzilla is. Mechagodzilla just got fully juiced up with this super magic radioactive energy power. And is just demolishing the shit out of Godzilla. Again, playing up the wrestling angle.
I mean, it was just one of those things where I didn't have a problem that, because I knew he was going to need help. I knew they were going to have to team up together to face this new threat. I just didn't like the fact that it just really seemed like too much of a wash.
He just comes out and starts just, it's almost entirely one-sided. Godzilla gets a couple hits in, but they don't really do anything. It's just like getting completely wrecked.
Right. So then, they revive King Kong, and it's funny because I had me and my buddy Freebie had an entire debate on whether Kong was dead or not. And
I don't know how you possibly could. They've already established that the girl can feel like pulses and sound waves through the ground. She's got super sensitive hand hearing, and she shows she puts her hand on the ground, and you literally hear Kong's heartbeat slowing. It's getting slower in real time.
So his whole thing was that his heart never stopped, so he was never dead.
He wasn't. It didn't stop. He wasn't dead, but he was about to die.
But this is my whole thing. I said there's a such thing as being clinically dead. You're not dead, but if you don't receive medical attention in the very near future, I mean, whenever you need a defibrillator or an adrenaline shot because your heart rate has dropped to a certain level, I mean, at that point, you're considered clinically dead. It's not, so, and that's what I was telling. It's like, listen, he was dead. He died. All right? We're not going to get into this whole, his heart really didn't stop. They had to start his heart again. I mean, they had to give it a jump. And you don't get a jump to your heart because you're taking a nap. Or because, because
you got cussed into unconsciousness. You take a jump to your heart because your heart is stopping. Your heart stops, you die.
Right. So I think that was kind of one of the things that he's trying to really, parse words there. And I'm just like, listen, dude, we already know what would have been the outcome. Without human interference, he was going to die.
Jareth and Freebie, you can parse all the words you want. Kong got knocked the fuck out in the boat fight. He got knocked the fuck out and nearly died at the end of the Hong Kong fight. He didn't win. He didn't win any of those fights. Until the last one.
The last one where he gets up and, then they start jumping, Mechagodzilla. He sees his axe.
And I just want to put in one more note here, too. Kong didn't lose. Okay, yeah, that's why he got knocked out. That's why he got his chest ripped up. That's why his rib cage was, getting stomped on by
Oh,
Godzilla.
this little
That's
kid-
why his heart stopped. That's why he had to pop his shoulder back into place, because he didn't lose.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely wasn't the face of someone who lost.
Yeah, definitely not.
But he sees his axe. And then he starts to, and at this point, Godzilla is completely drained. So Kong kind of takes over majority of the fighting.
I think it was right around that point that Godzilla took the full power laser to his chest.
Right. So then what happened was, I think at some point, the humans are trying to log into the system to cut the machine off.
Trying to give Millie Bobby Brown's team some actual, usefulness, a reason for actually being there.
And then, they use the guy's whiskey to pour it over the thing right as Kong is about to be killed by Mechagodzilla's tail. And it causes him to stall for like a couple seconds, which gives Godzilla the time to charge the axe. And then King Kong just literally
hacks Mechagodzilla to pieces. Chops an arm off, chops the leg off, chops the other arm off, chops him in half. The best part, when he fucking Mortal Kombat rips Mechagodzilla's head off and is holding it in the air like he's Kano or something.
Yeah, no, that was pretty badass, and that's why I was just like, that was a really cool scene, really cool action set. It was a really cool action set, and I think afterwards, it was one of those things where he kind of sits down to relax. He's tired, he just got resuscitated, and then the families kind of link back up, the humans kind of link back up, and you're seeing the aftermath for the first time, really, the aftermath of this fight.
Yeah, which doesn't have really any impact because you don't really see any people or too many people beyond the actual characters, and you haven't seen any people involved beyond the main characters with the, fighting that's going on. So,
as we said before, there had to be hundreds of thousands of people who died in between the fights between Godzilla and Kong, and then Godzilla, easily hundreds of thousands to millions of people who just died.
Definitely.
And, but then they're all relieved that this is over. Godzilla gets up, roars again. Yeah,
and basically yells at Kong again. They sort of face off a little bit at a distance, and then Godzilla's just like, it's like, they reach an understanding. They're both kind of on the same side.
Kong drops the axe. I do want to mention that because that was one thing I was kind of talking to my boy Freebie about, where I was like, yo, he dropped that axe, bro. It was like, Godzilla's like, listen, I had a little time to recharge. I'm ready to go again. And he's like, I'm going to drop this axe and see what happens.
Yeah. It's like, the scene reads basically as Godzilla's going to be like, what now, bitch? Like, are we still going? And Kong's just like, nah, man, this is done. We're done. Like, it's over. Yeah. It's done. We're on the same side. It's done. And it's sort of like, it reminds me, again, going back to wrestling, it reminds me of like, the Uneasy Wrestlers Alliance kind of thing. Kong drops the axe, but he doesn't kneel. He doesn't submit. He's still standing. He just puts the axe down, and then Godzilla's just like, all right, I'll take that, and leaves. And it's just like, okay, it's done. And, you get the feelings like, okay, they have an understanding. It leaves the potential open for a team-up in the future. And then, movie ends back in the Hollow Earth where, you realize, okay, Kong's living in the Hollow Earth now. They set up the new base down there. Still wondering how the hell the sun is shining down there. That's never explained, but, whatever. It looks cool.
No, that's funny as hell because I actually wondered about that myself.
Yep, I wondered that from the start. I was like, all right. Well, my immediate thought was, okay, they're going to find the energy source, and that thing's going to be really bright, and it's going to glow, and then it turned out, nope. Wait, where the fuck is that sun coming from then?
Yeah, like, is that the core of the Earth? Like, what the hell is that?
It was very confusing.
I mean, it's crazy. They're never going to explain it.
Yeah, no, don't think about it. Just let it look cool. That's the point. Don't think about it.
But I mean, it's interesting because Now, for at least this is really what I really wanted to get into, at least towards the end of our thing, which is the future of the MonsterVerse. Obviously, you're more well versed in the monsters that have been in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and I do know like they have Destroyer and Biollante and all other sorts, an assortment of other creatures that they could possibly try to bring in, maybe to face off against Kong for the first time, or against Godzilla for the gazillionth time. But I think that the Hollow Earth really opens up the opportunities for that, and
Yes.
that show I was telling you about them possibly doing, that they were thinking about doing, or any potential films that they were talking about doing, because
Yeah.
that Hollow Earth thing. I mean, now you have an entire world of creatures to really explore and get into, and there's more explaining that you can do if they want to do the whole Biollante thing, and or I think they had like a sludge monster too, didn't they?
Yeah, Hedera, the literal pollution alien. It
Right.
was an alien that fed on. It was like an alien parasite that fed on pollution and grew into a sludge monster. That movie actually, that movie's fucking weird as hell. It is like it's a mixture of 70s acid trip plus typical Godzilla fare. But the actual, some of the scenes they have in that movie are fucking horrific, considering it's supposed to still be a kids movie. Because like you got Hedera flying over these cities, like spraying its pollutive smoke, and then people just keel over, and their body, like the flesh on their bodies, immediately dissolves, leaving stained skeletons behind.
Yeah, that's crazy. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different avenues that they could take now with the whole Hollow Earth. I mean, and I mean, with that, I guess human population is no longer an issue, because you're like, oh, we have this other side of the planet that we can go to. And,
Yeah, seriously.
But I mean, obviously, it's gonna be something where there's so much they could do. Like, I was thinking, like, even if they do like this whole thing where there's religious sects, armies that are being formed to worship these monsters as literal gods in modern times, or just an exploration into the Hollow Earth in trying to find resources, countries trying to plant their claim or stake their claim on land,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the adventure is. There's so much now where they can
Yeah,
even
there's this new exploration, this new option, the Hollow Earth, the center of the Earth thing. It does not make, like, if you try to put any logic into it, it makes zero sense whatsoever. But it opens up a lot of possibilities for ways that they could go forward in the future. Do I think they're going to make really good use of it? No. No, I think they're going to lean into the camp, because the camp is apparently what's worked now. Like, they tried going really serious with 2014. It's decently well received. A lot of people do think it's a good movie, but it is a contentious movie because Gareth Edwards, as much as I like what he did with the movie, he made some big mistakes with it. Killing off Bryan Cranston being definitely the biggest one. Or at the very least killing him off when he did. I don't think he should have killed him off at all, but we could maybe in a future one, if we do a different Godzilla-related topic, maybe talk about ways we might change the movies in the MonsterVerse, because this is climbing up towards 3 hours now. But yeah, there's a lot of potential options that they've left themselves open with. I mean, the human characters can continue to be a problem, I think, because they just have not done a good job, period, of writing them so far, with really the exceptions of Bryan Cranston and, at times, Ken Watanabe, but both of those characters are dead now, so they're not coming back. Maybe in the prequels. Ken Watanabe I could see coming back if they do that prequel show, but that would really be it. In terms of, like, just the movie itself, how it was, what to expect, we did a lot of riffing on stuff, but notice, like, the parts we riffed on was all the stuff dealing with the humans. It's dumb. It makes no sense. But for as much of the stuff is there that's dealing with the humans, for most of the movie, when the humans are present, they're at least also accompanied by Kong, and Kong's character in this is still very charming. And the action scenes, although I personally would have preferred if they were a little slower. I personally would have preferred if they had a bit more of that weightiness to them and weren't so scrambly and fast paced. It reminded me actually a little bit of the second ever Godzilla movie, Godzilla Returns, which is one of the worst Godzilla movies ever made. They made some really dumb decisions with how they did that one, but we could save that for another time. Yeah, I see the potential for them to open up a lot of doors to bring in other Toho monsters. Having used the Oxygen Destroyer in the last movie, I figured if they were going to use Destroyer, it would be in this one, but who knows, maybe they'll bring him in a future movie. Personally, I hope they don't. I think Destroyer should keep his position as the monster that, was going to kill Godzilla. The big final foe of Godzilla in the 90s. He is unique in that he was the single strongest adversary Godzilla had faced at that time. And I kind of want them to leave it that way. I'm sure they could find something cool to do with him, but I just sort of like the idea of him keeping that mantle that he has, even though it doesn't mean we wouldn't get to see an update for him. But yeah, I think going forward, really the doors are just wide open. There's so much they can do. I'm sure it's going to lean into the camp. I'm sure it's going to lean into a lot of action. The reactions have been a lot more positive towards more of the daylight fights and that stuff. So hopefully they'll lean a little bit more on those. Maybe bring back some of the night fights. But if you do night fights, if you do dark fights, do it like King of the Monsters, where you can clearly see what's going on still. So yeah, I would say fun movie. Not a smart movie, not a thought-provoking movie, has a lot of fat that could be trimmed, but if you want just a bit of campy, over-the-top, like WWE style fun with a little bit of an adventure that focuses on King Kong, you're gonna have a good time. It's worth seeing the movie.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like I said, I really hope that they, like I said, as a person who writes, I would not take up the like if they were offer me,
you wouldn't pass up the opportunity, and neither would I.
And the thing is there is a lot of potential in because they entered this whole Hollow Earth thing and the way that they did it. Even though, like we said, it's very silly. But there is a lot of potential for the future, especially for Kong, because he's supposed to be the one down there now leading the charge. And there's a lot for him to do. And if there's ever a threat that wants to leave the Hollow Earth and go to Earth, and go to the other side of the planet where the humans are, you still have Godzilla there. So there is the potential for a team up. There's potential for solo films. There's potential for a series that really doesn't have to deal with either one of those monsters, just the humans and their exploration into the Hollow Earth, and basically, trying to stake their claims there. There could be indigenous humans there. There could be, an entire thing. It could be so much.
That reminds me too. So yeah, your thing on the Hollow Earth is talking about the potential it has for the future and all that stuff. That's kind of the big thing you wanted to touch on with the Hollow Earth.
Yeah.
So I almost forgot about this. Yeah. So the thing I wanted to touch on with the Hollow Earth is a big missed opportunity that would have made. There'd still be a lot of fat to trim with the whole thing dealing with Apex and exploring what was going on there and figuring out, finding Mechagodzilla and learning, how he came about. For me, the big missed opportunity is that, they have Apex. Apex has these heave vehicles. The way I see it, they're wanting to. They play it up like this is their maiden voyage. This is the first time they've ever attempted to use these things to go into the Hollow Earth. they should have had it be something like, they found that there was this difficulty getting into the Hollow Earth. It shouldn't have been as complicated as they made it. It should have just been something a lot simpler, like, hey, we've been having difficulties making a vehicle that can navigate in an area where the gravity will literally flip on its head as soon as you get in there, and you just start free falling. And it's like, okay, yeah, something like that for those vehicles would have been a much better way to go, I think, especially because then it doesn't, like, the whole explanation for why Kong can go through the thing and Titans can go through into the Hollow Earth, but the humans can't, is just sort of done as a just because. And It's like, if that's going to be your ultimate reasoning, leave that portion out. Let it be that Apex found a way into the Hollow Earth. They found a way to actually get down there, but the path that they used gets blocked off somehow, or the expedition goes wrong. And so they tried to find this power source, and they couldn't find it. But have it be that they went down there, because we get a hint that there was some kind of civilization down there when Kong finds this big throne room. And that there's got to be something advanced there, because those obelisks in the middle there, it's like they don't look at all like natural forms. Like, yeah, there's stone growing around them, but those were like perfect straight lines, perfect squares. That to me looked like technology.
Which and that's kind of what I was getting at. Now,
yeah. So what I was going to say is they missed the perfect opportunity to explain how the humans could have possibly made Mechagodzilla as quickly as they did, could have made these technological advancements as quickly as they did, if they had it be that the expedition to the center of the Hollow Earth turned out it actually was successful. That the brother's death, the Skarsgård brother, his character's brother's death that he talks about, which is the reason why he got discredited and all this stuff. If it turned out, Apex was the one that funded that secretly, and they set it up it was a setup. He was actually killed by them to keep this a secret and all this stuff, and that the first expedition was actually successful, and they took this technology, and then it turns out, we've already opened the door for aliens. Ghidorah is already an alien. Why couldn't it be that this technology was ancient, ancient aliens? Put up the picture of the dude with the crazy hair going aliens, but that's a thing that has been a thing for literal decades in Godzilla movies. It fits perfectly. Right. They could have easily done that. It's right there.
And I mean, the thing is that's what I was kind of getting at. Even if when I say indigenous, I'm not talking about like they're literally
just something that's already living down there.
Here's it still. I'm saying that it's just a different subspecies of it doesn't. I don't want to, but another type of human. That's down there.
Play it up as the Atlanteans. There was a couple Godzilla movies that even did that. That had, I think it was Godzilla versus Megalon. As cheesy as that movie was, and chock full of stock footage, as that movie was. That was a movie that they rushed out in like 6 months. But they had. I'm pretty sure they had an underground civilization of humans that were a super advanced ancient civilization like the Atlanteans. You could easily play up to that. You hinted at something kind of like that in Godzilla King of the Monsters. It's like these things were right there for you to grasp, and you just didn't. And I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It was to give Millie Bobby Brown something to do.
Well, not just that. I think because they don't really know. They didn't want to invest too much and not know if they were going to continue this series. They kind of left it open. Like, if it's successful, we'll continue. If not, then we'll end it.
And I get that. But I still think there's no reason why you couldn't have at least hinted at that. Like, you could have still kept that fully encapsulated in the movie. And that would then still give you, if it ends then, okay, it ends. You found an ancient civilization that had this advanced technology. We've kind of seen some hints of that in the previous movie, so it's not that far-fetched given everything they've seen. All we would need is they just change the backstory of the Skarsgård brother's character and have it be that his brother in the movie, like I said, Apex actually covered up that they killed him. and covered up that the expedition was actually successful. And they were taking this technology, but they could not find the power source that they were looking for. And so they need to get somebody to go back. And they think that maybe Kong can lead them there. And that would have even then played into the more villainous side of things that they didn't successfully do with Walter Simmons. And you could have easily kept that fully encapsulated within the movie, and then if it continues, well, that's another potential avenue you can explore going forward. And if it doesn't continue, well, you've tied it up enough to work for this movie.
It's funny. I actually almost can't wait till we actually get to talking about Alien.
Yes, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, because the way that they handle like Alien Covenant, Prometheus. Because, what you're saying, it kind of goes into the same thought process behind that. And,
oh, God, yeah, that timeline, Prometheus and Alien Covenant especially threw so much confusion into that timeline. My God, they really broke the Alien universe with those movies.
Yeah, and they kind of, and even the way they told the stories, they fucked us.
Definitely.
We'll talk about that when we talk about Alien. But like I said, there's like you were kind of hinting at. There's so much potential with the Hollow Earth, and I didn't know if there was any previous movies that showed any type of Hollow Earth thing or anything that they did, but.
Not really. The closest they got, like I mentioned, was the whole Godzilla versus Megalon, where they show that because normally in the 70s Godzilla movies, the 60s and 70s ones, particularly the later ones of those, before they actually introduced Mechagodzilla for the first time, a lot of the times it was different types of aliens coming to Earth and trying to invade the Earth to take the planet for themselves and using the monsters to try and wipe out all of mankind, and then Godzilla comes to save the day. Godzilla versus Megalon, it's that exact same formula, except instead it's a human civilization, an ancient human civilization that still exists underground, yet for some reason is somehow allied with the I think it was the Space Hunters of Nebula M or something like that, which were the villains in the movie before that, Godzilla vs. Gigan. And that literally, that relationship of these people mysteriously and inexplicably being allies there was literally just to have the excuse to bring a second monster in to fight Godzilla, so that way the robot character that was part of a contest won that, where Toho was like, hey kids, design a robot superhero sidekick for Godzilla. That's where Jet Jaguar came from. Literally the entire movie was just a vessel for this contest. So, but that's the closest they've ever gotten to something like the Hollow Earth, at least from what I remember. And I was going to say maybe you could argue that with the Netflix anime series, but no, not even really with that, because the little Mothra people in that, it's they're not really living in the Hollow Earth. They just sort of, dug out cave homes.
I mean, it's like I said, there's a lot there. So we're gonna see. We're probably gonna hear some news in about 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
If they're gonna continue it in what direction, if it's gonna be a series like they were originally planning, if they're going to do a prequel movie, if they're going to do a movie of what happened in between, those 5 years with Godzilla, with the other monsters, or Kong, potentially, with other monsters. Who knows? So, but yeah, we're definitely going to get some type of news, or if they're going to continue it from this point forward with the Hollow Earth. Because actually, that final scene was supposed to be an end credit scene.
Oh, that final scene with Kong and his thing was originally their end credit scene?
Yeah. But then they added it into because they didn't know if they wanted to do an end credit scene, because end credit scenes kind of hint that.
Yeah, nowadays, because of Marvel, people think that they always mean that, there's obviously going to be a sequel, there's obviously going to be something more. And really, with the type of tone and the type of movie this is supposed to be, putting that scene in just as the end scene, that was the right move. That was definitely the right move. It gives a bit of closure to this movie, so that way, if it doesn't continue, well, it's got enough closure. If it does, it still leaves things open enough for it to continue. Kind of like how Gareth Edwards' movie, the 2014 one, ended. If it didn't continue, well, it still ended in a way that is good for encapsulating the movie. But it just leaves it open enough to continue on because, hey, Godzilla survived. Oh, Godzilla and Kong survived. Well, if there's enough demand for it, we can make more. If not, well, then it ends, and, this story is wrapped up with a nice, clumsy, but effective bow. So, yeah, just again, real quick, my final thoughts on the movie. It's a lot of dumb fun. There's no plot to be had. Don't go in expecting a plot. If you want to watch giant monsters wrestle, give it a watch. It's going to be some fun. It's a decent enough sequel to largely more to Kong Skull Island than any of the other movies. But, yeah, the adventure with Kong is fun enough. It's not the most engaging thing in the world, but it's entertaining. The fights are fun. Especially if you want to watch with your kids, you want to watch with your family, just turn off your brain for a couple of hours. You'll be entertained.
Yeah.
How about your own final thoughts on it? And then we'll finish out.
Well, my final thoughts are pretty much the same as yours. I mean, it's a really fun movie. Like I said, I love the action sets. I always look forward to, the choreography and action sets in films. I get a lot of ideas for that, even to use in my own comic, Immortal Blood. Even though, like, if you're never going to be able to tell exactly where, unless you're like a huge movie buff, you're not going to be able to tell exactly where I get certain ideas from. But
now that you say that, if I don't see a character in your comic at some point use monkey style against a guy using dragon style, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah, that's like one person pointed it out, like the whole thing, with Juro and Tetsuzan with the training that they did. It was reminiscent of the Rocky movies, right? Where what was it, Rocky 4, I think, with
I haven't seen Rocky 4. I've seen the original movie. I think I've seen half of Rocky 2, and then I saw Creed.
Okay.
I haven't seen the other ones. Those are movies I know I really should watch. It's just I'm terrible at remembering to actually watch movies that I should watch.
Rocky 4 is Rocky kind of goes through like this traditional training, and his opponent does the training.
Oh yeah, I know about Ivan Drago and how he's supposed to be like a Russian super soldier and all that.
Right. So he goes through the training with the advanced technology, which is supposed to represent the whole. And that idea I kind of got with Juro and Tetsuzan. One goes through tradition, the other one goes through.
That makes sense. I can
so
see that.
It's actually funny that he pointed that when he wrote in the comment. It was funny that he pointed it out. I was like, wow, like But yeah, there's a lot of influence on certain things. So I haven't picked up anything yet from this film, to use, but it's definitely, like I said, it's interesting, and in that, in terms of action, and it does have something that could be a wealth of entertainment for the future if they choose to use it, but I don't know if they're going to, or like you said, if they're going to use it in the correct manner. So the jury's still out on that.
Yeah, we'll obviously have to just wait and see wherever that goes. And yeah, now that we're about almost 3 hours and 20 minutes into this, I think we can safely say spoiler section over. And this is I think anytime we end up doing like movie discussions and breakdowns like this are definitely going to be the longest episodes of these. And yet at the same time, still not as long as an episode of EFAP.
No.
Jeez. But yeah, we'll go ahead and call it here. Folks, yeah, if you haven't seen Godzilla vs. Kong yet, and the prospect of what we discussed sounds interesting and entertaining to you at all, yeah, give it a watch. You will you'll probably be entertained. You'll find something to like, I'm sure. But again, if you're looking for something that's more plot driven, looking for something that's got more of a robust story, you're not going to find that. That's yeah. Well, I don't know. I've heard some people argue. I've seen a lot of people saying, Snyder Cut's better than the Whedon Cut, but I've also seen some people making really good points about how, no, the Snyder Cut makes a lot of the same mistakes and is also really bloated. But I will make no judgments myself because I haven't seen either one. So, I'll have to wait and see.
But luckily we're not covering that because it's a 4-hour film. And
yeah, Jesus. I have seen some clips from the Snyder Cut, and I gotta say, in typical Snyder fashion, some of the decisions left me scratching my head from what I have seen. But that's not what this video is about. So we're gonna wrap it up. Again, almost 3 hours and 20 minutes. If you stuck with us this long, thank you very much. Please feel free to like this, subscribe if you want to see more. The mainstay of the stuff on my channel is tabletop gaming content, but this little project here with Z is always a fun thing to do. And going forward too, I do apologize for the inconsistency with episodes of this particularly recently. This has been entirely due to my work life. It hasn't been anything that Z has done. This is strictly on me and just the chaotic nature of how my schedule has been lately because of how things have been going at work. Fortunately, there's finally a light at the end of the tunnel there. Someone has been decided on for the new manager at my shop, and he actually stopped by today to kind of take a look at things while he was looking for, apartments down here where I live. And yeah, we're finally moving forward. So hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to actually have somebody there to help me, all the time at my store, which will be a lifesaver for this especially. And yeah. So yeah, that's about it. Anything else that you want to say before we head out?
No, just make sure that they read Phoenix Rising and Immortal Blood.
Oh yeah, shit! I almost forgot. Yeah, links to Z's comic or his manga Immortal Blood and his Instagram in the description. Links to my webcomic Phoenix Rising and my social media presences, including minds.com, which is the best place to follow me because that is where I back up all my regular tabletop gaming videos, any Let's Plays that I do, rare though they are, and incomplete as literally every single one of them is. I've never actually finished a Let's Play that I've done on this channel, so that probably isn't going to ever happen again. But if it does, you'll find the regular videos, and you will find these episodes of Zero G backed up over on my minds.com channel. So that's a good place to follow me too. And that's about it tonight. As usual, friends and gamers of all stripes, we hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you once again for joining us at Zero G.